Hello, class, and welcome to our last lecture over ERP systems. ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. And an ERP system, as we've discussed before many times in class, is simply the system that takes all of the data within the company and helps make decisions and helps show where things are and make sure everything stays in line so that the company can be efficient and not have any data loss and make sure everybody's on the same page so that there are no mistakes made. ERP takes care of something called information silos. An information silo is where a single department or a single person knows all of the information. And while that information can be accessed and is allowed to be accessed by other business partners, they have to go through the person in order to get to it, just from the way that everything's organized. The information is isolated from each other and from other people to where, while it may be helpful in making the decision, it's not being accounted for and not taken into the decision-making process. An ERP system's able to help with this because it pulls all that information together and allows people to control and connect it as needed. A way to think about this is that when people back before there was social media were gossiping with each other, this is a strange scenario and a strange example, but hear me out. You'd have to go to multiple people in order to get the full story of something. Each person has their own silo of information. So if we were using celebrities as an example, Amber Heard would have her information silo of her information and her story, whereas Johnny Depp would have his own, and all the other players within that situation would also have their own information silo. Enterprise application integration is simply the process of connecting everything within the company data-wise to each other. As we see, this hub in the center of this picture connects to the website, which connects to mobile devices, which connects to email, which connects to the ERP system. It connects to everything. This allows for automation throughout the processes. So let's say if there is a purchase made on the website, that purchase goes to the hub, and then that gets pushed out to all other information systems. So the website sale would go to the mobile devices of the people who have to fulfill the order. It's emailing out people who need to know about the order. It's adding that person into the customer management system. It's adding that sale into the ERP system. It's adding that data to the main data register in case they want to run analytics on it. All of that fun stuff, and it's done near instantly. Enterprise application integration acts as a layer between already set processes and systems. It allows the system to work within other systems. So as we can see from this picture, we have an EIA server, which is the server that allows everything connect to it. And then you see how this EIA interfaces to the other different data systems. So there's an EIA interface for the accounting system. There's an EIA interface for the HR system. There's an EIA interface for the sales system. Think of this as adding in plugins to a game or adding in downloadable content. You can add stuff to your EIA systems and add stuff to your other systems that allow them to connect to each other by buying on an extra little downloadable content item. That allows for all of these systems to be connected to each other. The ERP system works through the EIA by then connecting and grabbing all of the information from finance, manufacturing, and all the other areas of the business so that the data can be maintained and kept to be the same throughout all systems. This allows for efficiency, and this allows for less mistakes. It takes all this data and it consolidates it within real time. If somebody makes a sale, that's automatically pushed through to all the other systems. If somebody's fired, that's automatically pushed through to all the systems. Everything is integrated within the ERP system, and all the processes tie back into the ERP system. ERP works by integrating multiple processes together. Um, as we look at these two pictures, we can see that there is a blank spot in the first area where it says University Purchasing Agent, and over here, there's now this. These are just the two differences between having an ERP system, which is this one, ERP, and none. The ERP system simply allows for this University Purchasing Agent area to automatically be alerted whenever somebody wants to buy something. A real life example of this is an Amazon business account. The employees of a company can buy and put into a cart and make a purchase on Amazon, but that purchase then has to be approved by the purchasing agent, and then that purchase is fulfilled by Amazon. That kind of process plays out in many kind of businesses and within many systems. Another way to think about this is that if you are buying food online through an app, there are multiple processes within that system. If you're doing DoorDash, you're looking at the menu, you're placing the food order, the food is made, then they try to send the delivery driver, he gets lost, he calls you, he still can't find your place, and then he marks the food as delivered when he did not deliver the food. It is just a simple process. ERP systems are meant to fix the problems within the processes. If DoorDash had a better ERP system and had better processes, my food would get lost less. So what are the elements of an ERP system? Does it actually include every web app that a company puts out? Not necessarily. While a web app could be a part of an ERP system, what's more likely is that the EIA interfaces with that and then sends the information to an ERP system. ERPs specifically include customer relationship management, which is CRM, manufacturing resource planning, human resource planning, accounting, supply chain, and things of that nature. Um, the core business processes are what the ERP system touches on. For an ERP to function, though, you need several things. You need hardware and software for people to interact with it. You need procedures for the hardware and software to automate and to follow. And from there, you need data, and you either get data from people creating it or from it being uploaded into the system. And then all of those things more or less have to be able to interact with each other. People have to be able to have hardware and be able to know how to run the software so that they know which procedures that they have to do. Those procedures then also have to work on the hardware, work off the software, be able to use the data. Everything touches everything. That's why ERP systems are so robust, is that they hold multiple things together, and they hold multiple things together well. ERP systems work with both master and transactional data. The transactional data is the day-by-day data created by transaction processing systems. So this is going to be sales, this is going to be quotes, this is going to be anything and everything that is generated either automatically or routinely that is part of a business process. ERP systems also work with master data, mostly from a lookup standpoint and a maintenance standpoint. But if there is a sale or a customer record that it needs to look up from that master data, it has the access to do that, and it has the ability to update that. Let's say if a customer moved and needs their address changed, or they want you off of the email list, things of that nature. ERP systems have to be configured on a business per business and a use by use basis. Each company has a different process. And so ERP systems normally are not completely out of the box. There has to be some configuration so that the processes that a company has can be integrated into the system so that it is able to more seamlessly integrate with how a company works. And finally, organizational data is the data that is about the organization. This is basic things such as addresses, phone numbers, things that are about the organization that rarely change, if ever, and can be touched on by pretty much any process of the system when other transaction reports and transaction processes have to take place. Now, seeing that ERP systems are software, they need hardware to work on. Anybody that's going to be interacting with the system needs some sort of device in order to be able to either enter data or to get information out of the system. For that, you need computer hardware, such as actual computers, tablets, or phones, and then a network and infrastructure to allow them to communicate with each other. Furthermore, you need procedures in place that can actually be placed within the ERP system. Procedures are what we did with the process maps to where we know what needs to go into the systems. And finally, we need people to use the ERP system. We need the users to be able to understand and to be able to enter information and pull information out. Um, Furthermore, we need the analysts to be able to go in and to look for things and see if there's any sort of trends or any sort of business intelligence that we can pull out. And we might need to bring in consultants for the configuration and for some advanced analytical work as well. Now, there are inherent business processes that some companies must adhere to. These can be standardized things such as in accounting or within other things that must be regulated by law. Um, Within this, ERP systems are set to defaultly follow these processes, such as invoicing. The invoice is always generated after a quote. There's never really a situation to where it should be generated after. That being said, some companies which do have custom processes must have their systems thoroughly configured so that they are able to not use the inherent business process, but use their out of practice or an uncommon business process that they have adopted for some business justification reason. There's many benefits, though, for a company to implement an ERP system. Security and regulatory compliances, this is things like being able to have your data somewhere that people can access, but they can't copy from, or it's also behind a firewall or VPN. Furthermore, you can make sure that your data is compliant. Certain data has to be kept for so long on premise, things of that nature. Productivity, people aren't chasing down other employees for information that they need to do their job. They can just look it up within the ERP system. Often, ERP systems will actually predetermine and pre-give the end user what it assumes to be the correct information. Often it is because it can use the foreign keys and primary keys to track all the data within the database. It allows for the processes to be streamlined. If there's something to where somebody has to check off on something, whether or rather than having to email that person manually, wait for them to email back and then continue on, an ERP system can ping somebody, ask yes or no, and then move on through the system as well. Furthermore, it can auto-generate transactions and transaction processes, and it can also store information automatically. Uh, Competition-wise, the faster your company is, the better it can compete in the market. Obviously, the better ERP systems that are out there can help the companies help companies become more productive, can help them become faster, and it allows for less overhead. Finally, with especially with COVID, ERP systems, especially the cloud ones, allow for people to connect remotely. You can be at home and connect up to your job and be able to do your work from anywhere, which is very convenient. For more practical reasons of why ERPs benefit the company, customer service. We can track what customers may be interested, may have quotes out, may have issues. All of that is loaded into a customer relationship management system, which the sales reps can then go in and look at information about their potential customers. Uh, that allows or is enabled by integrated information. The CRM system can tie back into the invoices, and a salesperson can see all the purchases previously that a customer has made, what amounts, times, and all that information that's related to that. This also allows for forecasting and reporting. Since the information is all integrated within an ERP system, it can go off and do business analytics on it. And this allows for growth and money. Since we can forecast potential sales and since we can target sales, we're able to grow companies faster and save money at the same time by sticking with leads that are generated by the system that are going to be much more likely to be able to convert into a sale. Again, just to reiterate, the benefits of using ERPs is that the data is shared in real time. So as soon as a transaction takes place, all that transaction data is automatically available throughout the system. It allows for integrated processes to be implemented. These are, again, can be used the industry's best practices, which have been tried and true. It allows for managers to see more data, leading to better oversight. Managerial dashboards allow the managers to see which employees are performing well, which ones aren't, which potential factory lines are making what amount of products or have what amount of issues, things of that nature. It allows for information silos to be accessed, or well, to be deconstructed, and then allow that information to be accessed by all functional departments. And finally, the systems can integrate with supply chain partners. So if the ERP system sees that a product that's going to be needed is going to be out of soon, it can automatically order more of that from your supply chain partner. ERP systems are consistently expensive to maintain and to install, so costs should be kept down whenever possible. Things to keep in mind, most ERP systems are prices based about the number of users that are going to be accessing the system at a time. So if you're developing an ERP deployment plan, you're going to look at how many people are actually going to need to use the system. You're going to look at what applications and what things that the ERP system is going to have to interact with. Certain modules can add extended features, but if it's not going to be used by the company, you don't want to be paying for it. And you only want to pay for EIA protocols that are able to be used within the systems. And finally, you can get additional add-ins, but those can be extremely costly. Things that plug in and are integrated and developed by a third party to work within an ERP system can also be slightly buggy. The major cost of an ERP implementation is the implementation itself. Often you have to bring in external consultants or pay the company that's selling you the software implementation fees so that they can bring their people in and actually get the system to work within your business processes. There's a lot that has to be done because this is a company-wide software. That being said, you want to do it right the first time because you're not going to want to ever do this again. So often you see companies buy one ERP system and then stick with that system for their the length of the span of time that the company's in business. At minimum, you want to plan for an implementation cost ratio of 1 to 1, but it could easily be higher than that. So that means that your implementation cost is exactly half of the entire project, if not more. Once the ERP system is in place, you do have to pay on-site staff or an external company to maintain it. This includes updates, changes to the processes within it, additions to it, and other modifications. That could be, there's specific SAP people within companies that often take care of these things, or you can have external companies as well. Furthermore, any customizations should also be maintained. So if you have an external company doing those customizations, you're going to want to have some sort of contract in place so that there's updates within the long run. Or if you're doing it internally, you need to make sure that everything is documented so that when turnover happens, whoever initially created the customization doesn't have to be called back in to fix it. And then the person that's replacing him is able to look at that documentation and go, oh, here's what changes have been made, and here's what I need to do to continue it. There are three basic challenges when implementing an ERP system. That's your decision-making challenges, and that's the details of the ERP system. This could be from the brand or the vendor. It could be how the ERP system's laid out within the company, what modules are going to be used, things like that. Um, the other side of that is the people challenges. We need to make sure that the people know how to use the system or that are willing to use the system. If you're deploying an ERP system to a factory floor and none of the workers plan to use it, that ERP system is going to be unusable because there's going to be no entry data, or the people who are making products are not going to be able or willing to use the system so that it's fair not going to be able to be used. That's a huge data hole. Um, Also, you want to make sure that whatever is changed or however things are configured, it's well documented. People do not last forever in the business world, so you want to make sure that when somebody leaves the company and is replaced, the person who is doing the replacement can look at back at something, be able to figure out how something is working, and be able to maintain it. And finally, ERP upgrades. You want to make sure that the upgrades are there's an upgrade path for both the software and for the company. Continuing on with more examples of decision-making challenges within implementing an ERP system is that you have the ERP vendor selection. There's multiple companies. A gap analysis, that's where you figure out what you like to do and then figure out where your budget gaps and how to fix that. The configuration, what is things do you need? Identify the configuration pieces, the procedures, how big, what's the scope of the ERP project itself, and what's the bill of materials, what software modules and what things are going to have to be purchased in order for this to work. Are there data issues? Is there anything that's top secret or copyrighted or FERPA or HIPAA complaints or issues with that? And then cutover pressure. At what point does the executive leadership want this online? Is that sooner? Is that later? Because that transition has to go well if you want your job to look like you know what you're doing. ERP upgrades then can also present challenges as well. You have surprise and resistance. That's when the end users don't like the new look or like how the new system works compared to the old. You can think about Windows 8 versus Windows 7 or Windows Vista versus Windows XP if you're old enough, things like that. Um, you have to justify normally for a financial reason why you need to upgrade, and security flaws sometimes don't count. You could also be version locked when you upgrade to where things that were customized before are no longer customizable. And also make sure that there's a long-term upgrade strategy when there's a purchase made or when software is deployed. uh, Knowing where things are going to be makes it easier, and it's not going to be a redeployment every time software is upgraded. Instead, it's just going to be an upgrade process and procedures in place types route. Now, every industry can use an ERP system. There practically is one made for every industry type. The big players, though, are SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, and a few others. If you look at this chart, you can see that really no matter what the sector the company is in, SAP, Oracle, or Microsoft is the preferred brand. Each of these systems are potentially designed to work better for certain sectors or not. Something like Epic works for healthcare. Uh, Healthcare, Epic is not in the system, so obviously uh, there's no healthcare within this. The type of ERP system used by a company is directly related to how big a company is. Things like SAP can be very expensive, but smaller ones such as Microsoft Dynamics are a much more manageable cost. And so it's looking at a cost to performance ratio of does a certain plugin that comes in with a certain program actually is needed for the company to work well. So things like that have to be taken into consideration. The other thing is that the more expensive that an ERP system is to implement, the more expensive it is going to be to maintain. Those costs carry across the board. So most, if not all, businesses use ERP systems: manufacturing, distribution, mining, medical care, retail, any kind of business you can think of, there is an ERP system for. Dog breeding, dog grooming, t-shirts, welding. I have seen multiple ERP systems that have touched on specifically those types of businesses and the processes that go along with those businesses. This slide here is meant to show how the smaller niche ERP systems only make up about 53% of the entire market share. SAP is the dominant leader, with Oracle and Microsoft following behind. And here's just a breakdown kind of looking at how each one kind of costs and if there's any benefits. And frankly, they're all kind of the same. Microsoft's payback is much quicker, but that's because Dynamics is built into Office 365, and so you can piggyback that onto their employees' Microsoft Office costs and their email costs as well. Now, I want to stop and I want to talk about SAP because it is the primary system for most companies. SAP has some characteristics which make it unique. Some of those can be explained here in the slide. It has modules, it has custom inputs and outputs, and then there's custom software with it. The modules can be described as a distinct logical set of processes that are unique to SAP. The inputs and outputs provide usability features so that you can tie in more systems to either giving an input to SAP or having SAP output to another system. And then the software package, their suite, is their what they use to do some basic analytics and maintenance on the systems. There's more modules than this, but I wanted to give you an example of how SAP modules work. They're normally represented by 2 letters within the systems, within SAP systems. So quality management's QM, things of that nature. But each one of these is a separate module that has to be separately configured and separately paid for within SAP. So you can see how that the cost for this can build up fast because you're paying per module, per user accessing it.